Thank you all for joining us once again for the Ausmerica podcast. We've got a very great and wonderful, awesome guest. Dr. Shaun McKean has joined us today. Thank you, Shaun, all the way live from Sydney, Australia. And yeah, so it's going to be a very interesting podcast today.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Tanks now pressurized.
Yeah, news certainly does get around, doesn't it?
Hello, people of the world.
3 or 4 hot tips a month.
There was a firefight! Wow! It doesn't build character, it reveals it.
I want you to hit me as hard as you can.
Okay, Shaun, thanks for coming on the show. I really do appreciate your time, man. Thank you so much. I haven't seen you in
quite a number of times since you left Australia, actually.
Well, yes. Well, I hadn't seen you either for Australia for what so long, and you were flying, I know, between New Zealand, Australia for a long time too. I didn't know that, right?
Yeah, because I'm obviously a Kiwi, but I've been living here in Australia for well over 20 years. But I go back to New Zealand every once in a while to catch up with friends and family and that sort of thing. And of course, it's just a short hop. It's only 3 hours away. So
that's right. That's right. So, for those who don't know, you are an actor.
Yes, I am. It's something that I try and pursue as much as I can. I, of course, have a full-time job that helps pay the mortgage, but I try and do as much acting as I can when I have the flexibility from work and that sort of stuff as well, yeah.
So, what's the main, I would say, obstacles you would find in, say, performance in, say, Australia? What would be the main hurdles you would say to overcome to become an actor to where you are? What is the average hurdles that?
Well, it's probably the same thing it's probably the same that happens everywhere. Is that you can have all the talent, the drive, and the passion to pursue what you want, but there's only a certain amount of work out there as well. So you need to have the passion to keep on doing what you want to do, even though 9 times out of 10 you're going to get knocked back all the time. You're going to have plenty of auditions. Sometimes they go well, sometimes they don't. And the success rate of getting an audition, say, for a TV commercial or a small role in a TV series or something is very, very small. That's something that you need to be aware of because you've got to keep trying. And that's what I try and do.
So what do you do? Do you ever do your own projects? Like, say, I'm gonna just screw it.
In the past, I've had the opportunity to sort of take time off work and go and pursue an opportunity that's come my way, like doing some theatre and that sort of thing as well.
Nice.
Haven't done that for a while, and most of the stuff I'm doing at the moment is really like camera work, and what I do is I have the opportunity to take off work to do and that sort of stuff as well.
Nice,
but I find it difficult to say I need to just leap off and I need to go and do it because I've got the responsibilities with the house and partner and that sort of stuff as well. It's all a balancing act, and that's the difficult thing. You have to balance between your artistic wants and your financial needs.
Right. So how would you give us a snapshot? This is a kind of thing I kind of ask every Aussie kind of filmmaker or actor who comes on the podcast, is give us a snapshot of what the Australian industry in terms of film looks like from your current point of view right now. Just to give people some in-depth kind of knowledge as to what's going on.
Yeah. It's interesting because if you look at, say, what's happening, say, in theatre and what's happening, say, in TV and film, they're obviously two sort of different genres, really. There's some really good theatre that's happening here in Australia at the moment. In fact, I went and saw the Torch Song trilogy just the other night at the International Playhouse. Okay. Excellent production, I have to admit. And there's more vibrancy, I think, in the theatre scene than there really is at this particular stage. I think that's happening in, say, TV. There's some good independent films and stuff happening over here, which is great. I think there's more happening in New Zealand, actually.
Really?
Yeah.
No shit, yeah.
Being a Kiwi and sort of being slightly plugged into what was happening back in New Zealand when I was there 20 years ago to what's happening now, there's been huge changes.
Really?
And the arts scene in New Zealand, I think, is more vibrant than actually is happening here in Australia.
Are you ever tempted to just, hop on a plane and
And go home?
Yeah, I mean...
Look, I'm probably a little bit long in the tooth these days, but probably not. It's if I was in my 30s or 40s, I would probably have considered it. But now that I'm sort of halfway through my 50s, it's something that I'm a little bit more conscious of and aware of and that sort of stuff as well. So as opposed to sort of jumping and doing something that's unique and different, I find it more complicated now than what I used to do when I was in New Zealand. Because in New Zealand, I did it way back in the 90s and that sort of stuff. Right?
Yeah, that would have been tough. The 90s would have been...
Look, I had an experience. When I was working in Wellington, I set up a small theatre company with a friend of mine, and we did the Harold Pinter play. And it was artistically, it was great. I did fund it on my Visa card, however. Financially, that probably wasn't a very good idea. It took me quite a while to pay that debt off.
Yeah, but that's pretty cool that you had your own theatre company at that age, and
it was
that much control.
It was just three of us. We put it together. We put the show on for one of the fringe festivals in Wellington, and I think it was one of the best things artistically I ever did because I played the character Aston, and it was great. We had a very, very good director, a very, very good cast. But financially, it just didn't work at all. But that's the nature of theatre. You never make any money in theatre.
Yeah. So, are you saying that you would prefer film over theatre anytime, or?
These days, yes. Although I started doing theatre, say, in New Zealand, way back in the 80s. And I was working for theatre companies that did some tours around, say, the North Island of New Zealand, doing high school tours and that sort of thing as well. You never made any money. It was fun to do. But these days, most of the stuff I really focus on is camera work. I like working in front of the camera because obviously it's a completely different experience working in front of a camera than, say, working in front of a live audience. Yeah,
but Shaun, let's face it, it's terrifying though. Like, how do you get over the whole jitters and the whole pain to stand there and say, I can actually do this confidently and make everyone in the room go, oh yeah, he does this all day long. It's it sounds like a stressful.
Oh, look, it is, and I must say, for me personally at the moment, I'm going through a bit of angst in relation to my confidence in front of the camera. But I always knew I would. I'm inherently a bit of a shy person, and I knew that there will come a stage where, I don't know why, where I just felt I have lost a bit of the confidence that I used to have in front of the camera.
Really? You think that right now?
Yeah.
No,
so it's something I continually need to work on.
Yeah, but I've seen some of the characters you play, and they're pretty hard, tough dudes. That's kind of a normal kind of stereotype for you. Like the really angry kind of.
Yeah, you took one of the short film Joe, right?
Yeah, well, that's one. Yeah, that's mainly. Yeah, that's the one who.
But it's an ongoing process, and I think people get the wrong ideas about, say, screen actors, is that they think it's easy. It's not.
Yeah.
It's not an easy process. And you're quite right, getting up in front of a team of people that you don't know and a camera stuck in your face, and the old adage of just wait, now, be brilliant.
Yeah.
It takes time, and it takes, I think, a certain individual and a person who can actually put up with that and do it. But it's also very rewarding, I think, personally. I really, really enjoy it. And although I'm not doing as much stuff as I've used to do in the past, I'm still doing things that I enjoy. And it's a work in progress. And it always will be.
What do you do about, I know this kind of problem, projects that you really, really regret in the past, that you're like, signed on, sounded good, felt good. I thought it was going to be good. Like, what's your technique for dealing with, especially on screening nights when there's one there and you're sitting there and you're like, holy fuck, holy shit.
What the hell did I do that for? Yeah, I know. And it's true. I have done stuff in the past that I thought, this is going to be pretty good. And then when I see what I've done, I just say, fuck, Shaun, you really buggered that one up.
So what's your process? What do you go through?
It's part of the process, Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah, but do you go out that night and get hammered drunk and just? I mean, that's kind of what I do.
You have to just chalk it up to experience and say, fuck, well, I screwed that one up. Hopefully next time it'll be a lot better. And I've learned from it, so the next one will hopefully be better than that.
Yeah.
Well, that's what you're hoping on.
Yeah. Have you ever...
and the odd drink doesn't sort of mind it all either, I have to admit.
So, what would you say, off topic, completely off topic, because I've got a lot of questions going through my head. What is the most rewarding cinematic experience that you can actually recall? Like,
something that I've done?
Well, anything. I would say anything that where you sat down in a cinema and you were actually like, holy crap, the crowd around me is actually influencing me, and so forth. This is an experience.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. I'd have to break it down to two issues. For example, I've done some stuff that I have been really, really, really proud of.
Yeah.
And I've walked away from doing a particular scene or scene when it's come out on film saying, that was great. And that gives you a sense of personal self-reward. I also like to watch, and I do watch a lot of films. A lot of films, a lot of TV series and that sort of stuff as well.
Nice.
And there are moments when you can sit in a theatre and you have this great film on and this great scene and you're completely involved within it. And it's not only you, but it's the rest of the audience, and you can tell. And that is a special feeling. That offers you a special moment.
Yeah.
And that's happened a few times in some really, really good films I've seen.
Hey, can you name a few off the top of your
God, I've seen so many. What was the...
I gotta force it.
What have I seen recently? Even, for example, the moments, say, the old American series, The West Wing.
Oh, yeah,
Aaron Sorkin.
Fair enough. Good call.
Brilliant.
Good call.
Brilliant scriptwriter. There's some great moments in there that you are completely in with them. And that's what he's trying to do. That's what the writer, the director, the actors are doing. They're trying to tell a story, and when they can bring you into it, that's something that's unique and special. It doesn't happen always, but when it does, it's quite a unique moment. Okay. And that's why I want to keep on acting.
Nice. Oh, that's what you just took the words right out of my mouth. It's like, are there days like where you just wake up and you're like, I just don't want to go there, or are you still as pumped as you were when the first day started? I mean, of course, you've seen some shit now. I mean,
There are times when I've done some stuff where I have worried and having all this angst over having to go and shoot this particular scene for this particular production and that sort of stuff as well. And that's complicated and it's hard, but you just do it and you weather your way through it because you want to keep on doing this. There are moments, of course, when you've done something that you can, as I said before, you can walk away and say, fuck, I nailed it. That was great. This is why I'm doing it. It's, as I said, it's all a balancing act. It's trying to work out, I have my full-time job, I've got all these commitments, but I also want to do my acting as well. And I'm never, and most people never will, most actors never will, live their life simply on what they earn by their acting. They always have to have a second string to the bow. But if you can have a balance between the two, that's the way it has to work. Well, particularly for me.
Well, okay, so big question then. I want to ask you now. This is a big one, and you need to give a straight answer here. This is a straight 181. How would you define Australian cinema as a whole entity itself? Like a lot of people, like I was watching an old Alex Proya's seminar talk, and he was like, well, I don't just shoot a film thinking I'm Australian. It just kind of ends in that genre, and that's kind of how things are. However, he did go on and said that there are films that could be in that. I mean, I believe he said that anyway. But
it's an interesting question, really.
I mean, do you like that when you walk into, like, this is an Australian set, or, okay, we're just going to make a film, and because, the script, it comes through. If they're actually trying to use it as more of a basis or just
It's more the latter, actually, as opposed to walking and say this is an Australian thing that I'm really, really sort of enthusiastic and keen on. It's really all about when you work on the set and it's the script you've got and that sort of thing. So put it into a nutshell, I think that Australian cinema at the moment has a long way to go.
Like, what do you mean?
They do some great stuff here, but they need to find their niche. And I don't think they've hit that mark yet.
Yeah, but
it'll get there. but I still think they're muddling their way through.
Have you seen Upgrade though?
No, but I did see the comments that you put on Facebook about it.
I'm telling you, Film Victoria.
I do have it, and I will be seeing it, but I have not seen it yet.
It makes you think. It's well done. It's probably one of the best I've seen in a while.
And I'm looking forward to seeing it. I have to admit. Don't forget, they do some great stuff here in Australia. But again, I sort of look back to how New Zealand's developed in relation to their film industry. In the theatre and that sort of stuff as well. And true, New Zealand's a small country, small population, that sort of thing. But where it used to be 25, 30 years ago to where it's developed now is pretty amazing. And I think that journey still needs to be done here in Australia.
Really? I mean, come on. What about the old 80s grindhouse days and Ozploitation movies?
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of a birthing of a culture, and
it is.
I mean,
it's a birthing of a culture. It still needs to develop and grow and evolve, and that's what I'm saying. I think it will. It's developing. It's getting there, but it hasn't reached its peak yet. Give it time, and it will.
All right. So what would you like to see then? Like I know you're just a regular moviegoer. What genre or what type or what kind of film would you want to Australians to actually take on board and actually put money into? Like, what would you want to see?
Well, they do, of course, a lot of say American films over here. Main reason, of course, they do that sort of stuff is because of money.
I know, yeah, but it's so depressing.
But it's not. Yeah, it's not what you're saying is an iconic Australian film, and there have been those in the past.
Yeah.
What I'd like to see, I suppose, is some good, solid dramas. Now, yeah, of course, I've had them in the past as well, but something that's not like all about
drugs and women and sadness and
it's some great films in that genre here in Australia, and don't get me wrong, I've enjoyed them as well.
Oh yeah, same.
But there's some, I seem to get more of a kick out of seeing a low budget indie film that's done rather well here in Australia, because the topics that they're showing and what they're demonstrating and how it's written, that's something that gets me. And I think that development that's happening here in Australia, as it is, will lead to a better film industry in the future.
So, if you can you name off a few Australian independent films or New Zealand independent films that you would actually recommend for people to go out and see and download?
Because I've seen some good New Zealand films that have come out recently.
And this includes your films, too. Give us a list here. Give us a list. What do you say?
This would have gone straight to DVD, mate.
Oh, no. You can promo.
Oh, Jesus. One of them. Acting Out. I did that quite a number of years ago. That was filmed here in Australia by a guy who used to work on TV series called Home and Away.
Okay.
Which I don't think you get in the States anymore. It's just a soap series and that sort of thing. Look, that was fun to do, but it's something that, luckily they actually managed to went off to DVD, and some people would have seen it and that sort of stuff as well. Other films I've been rather embarrassed that I've been involved in, but some of them have, they've been released on the, I don't know what's happened at the moment, where they've gone. It's been quite a while ago since I've done them, I have to admit, but there have been some really good New Zealand films and independent films that have come out of New Zealand, and some of those have done quite well overseas. I can't even think off the top of my head at the moment, probably because I've had 2 glasses of wine. But the New Zealand film industry, I think, is something that shows a great deal more vibrancy than I think is happening here in Australia at the moment.
Even with Australia doing its sci-fi, because they're doing a lot of low-budget sci-fi at the moment.
Yeah.
Which, isn't really entertaining at all.
There are some, like I saw an Australian sci-fi, I think it was Arrowhead a while ago, and low budget, good on them, well
what was
done.
It called?
I think, off the top of my head, I think it was called Arrowhead. I could be wrong.
Arrowhead, I saw that. I think that sounds familiar. Yeah.
And there's a guy on it who I've worked with before, and look, he did a great job. That's fine. And it's nice to see that there are people out there who are committed to go out and do independent films and do the hard yards and do the hard slogs and get money from somewhere and do something like this. And that's nice. Is it the best of what Australia can do? Not yet.
No.
It'll happen. It'll happen. I think there's a huge potential here, and it's just a question of time.
Just a question of time. So,
Yep.
let me see. Do you think it's more about Australian politics and like rebates and economics than it is about anything else?
That's part of the issue as well. I don't quite know. I know, for example, say back in New Zealand when Peter Jackson did the whole Lord of the Rings trilogy, he cut a good deal with the New Zealand government in relation to tax and that sort of thing.
See,
and that was one of the principal reasons why it was filmed back home. And of course, over here, when you get from productions wanting to come across and shoot here, at the end of the day, a lot of it's all about the dollars, if it's not all completely all about the dollars, and how much it's going to cost and how much it's going to be produced. Yeah. Years ago, I did a TV commercial for an American bank that I think is defunct now, called Washington Mutual. And of course, they came across to Australia to shoot it here because it was cheap.
Yeah.
So again, there is a lot to do with the politics here and the money that the government can either offer as a tax rebate or maybe can give to them and say on the basis that, yes, you may have to make sure that you have to hire at least 75% of Australians.
Yes, which they change, dramatically change,
My sister's, she's a special effects makeup artist up in Queensland.
Oh, yeah?
And she knows this quite intimately because she's worked on various productions, not only in New Zealand and here as well, that the production company, if they get a certain tax break here, then they would have to employ a certain number, they have to make sure that a certain number of Australians are employed, which is fair enough.
Yeah, but I thought that there was a whole loophole in like the free trade agreement with the U.S. where they could like kind of screw you in some way on that. Like, I'm not entirely sure.
Yeah. I'm not entirely sure actually if the Australians actually have a free trade agreement with the US.
Well, I mean, or there was going to be, or there was a planned one. I'm not sure.
Not with your current president.
I mean, look. I mean, I don't know, dude. I mean, this is something that would have been years in the making with Obama. Yeah. So, but speaking of the president, what is? I mean, look, I'm going to be honest. I mean, I am having a lot of difficulty. Like, I'm not a supporter in any way, but the economy is booming, and it's really hard to argue with people when they can literally show you the economy figures.
Okay, yeah, but then again, is it booming because of him, or is he just happened to be in the right time when the economy picked up?
Yes.
Is it booming because of all the other policies that are put in place by Obama?
Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, he's a businessman, so businesses, and I mean, he's ending the wars.
Is he?
Well, that's what he said. Right? Well, see,
what he says and what he does are two completely different things. The interesting thing is, now I'm getting off topic in relation to politics.
No, please.
When North Korea.
Oh, okay,
really?
Yeah. Well, that's true.
Really?
That was a fizzard. That was the most anticlimactic event of our time. Like, two people met.
He's blaming all the bad press and all the fake news, of course. And I'm sorry, to put it in a nutshell, I feel embarrassed for you guys that you have this guy in the White House. Seriously, he's a joke on the international stage. Everybody looks at the adult kindergarten of your White House saying, "What the fuck is going on there?"
Yeah.
Okay, I'm foreign. You know, it's obviously he was voted in. I'm only hoping, from my point of view, of course, that he's a one-term president if he's not impeached beforehand. But oh my God, you know, I just look how he is on the international scene. I look at how everybody else looks upon him, and they're either terrified of what this guy can do, or they look at him as a pure joke. And what's this thing with Stormy Daniels? Is he the only one that thinks he didn't sleep with her?
well, because you know that they found like two other women that they paid off as well too. But it's if this was any other president, they would have impeached him and shut him down.
Why hasn't anybody? And maybe they have. Why hasn't anybody asked his wife about it? Saying, "What do you think about it?" Or have they?
Melania just seems to be strapped in for the ride. It seems like she just doesn't know what's going on.
Well, I suppose she's getting paid for doing something. I don't know. But look, it's fascinating looking what's happening over in the States. And I've been in the States a few times in the past. I'd love it.
Yeah.
I'd love to come back again and that sort of thing.
Have you
happening on the
been
international
back?
stage with you guys? Oh, fucking hell.
Have you been back since Trump or no?
No. I think the last time I was there was a few years ago, and Karen, my partner, and I went across to, we're in, say, Chicago, San Fran. Great place. We went in Cleveland. I want to. There's so much to see over in the States.
I know, it's crazy.
I want to get across and have a look again, but it's just that, oh man, why you have that current president?
It's turning
I really
crazy.
feel sorry for you guys.
I'll be honest. The mood is everyone's a bit argumentative, everyone's a bit on guard, and everyone's ready to kind of have an argument about it. That's pretty much everyone. Like, no matter.
It's so divisive over there at the moment. I don't know if it's like I've been watching the Ken Burns production of the Vietnam War at the moment on Netflix, which is brilliant.
Yes,
Brilliant.
I've heard it's good. I was thinking about it, and then I was like, oh, it's like 8 episodes or something.
Yeah. Look, I'm a bit of a military historian buff, personally. And they talked about the divisiveness of what was happening in the States, of course, back in the 60s and 70s during the Vietnam War. I'm just wondering if that same sort of divisiveness is what's happening at the moment with the current president. I don't know.
Like, okay, wait, elaborate on that a little bit more. What?
Well, there was so much, I suppose, during the Vietnam War in the 60s and the 70s in the States, from my point of view, of course, is that it was such a tumultuous time in American politics. And with what was happening in American society at the moment, is something similar happening now with Donald Trump being in power? That, I don't know, that, with the conflict between the Republicans and the Democrats, and between the supporters and the people who don't support Donald Trump, is it as divisive now as it was back during the 60s and 70s Vietnam War? I don't know, man. It's fascinating to watch from this side of the planet.
Oh, that's crazy. Check out the documentary Power of Nightmares if you haven't seen it already.
Okay, yeah.
It's a documentary about how they also go into how the modern day American dream is actually kind of like a byproduct of actually Muslim beliefs and things like that, and it's actually false, it's fake, it's not real. And the guy who wrote the book, Saikuta, on like jihad, lived in America for a few months or a few years and basically hated the culture. And basically in Colorado too. He lived in Colorado. Yeah, I'm not going to say where. But and then he wrote the book on jihad, and then his own people killed him, or a more extremist group killed him because they thought he was extreme, or he was too extreme. But they've kept his beliefs through modern day extreme, and this is extremism. I'm not talking about regular Islam. I'm talking about this. This is all in the documentary.
Oh, fascinating! Because it's I know
BBC.
We're talking off topic and that sort of stuff, but the whole process is happening, say, overseas, and particularly over in the States and Europe. Not so much here in Australia. There have been a number of arrests in relation to extremists. There haven't been any significant or major terrorist attacks at all, thank God. And the security forces, I know, have managed to capture the relevant people or arrest them before anything was happened. But we're lucky that way. We're in the bottom end of the planet.
Well, I will say that the Lint Cafe thing actually made world headline news here. Like, people saw that over here. That ricocheted all the way here.
I was there where I used in my office where I used to work. It was just down the road from the cafe,
so
and so they had just outside. It was Elizabeth Street, and then the cafe was just up the road. It was all cordoned off and that sort of stuff. I was living through that when it happened, and of course we didn't know at that stage who this guy was, whether or not he was he had the link to Daesh or ISIL. But it turned out that he probably, as far as I'm aware, he didn't. He was a bit of a lone wolf, and it was tragic. I think there were 2 people who were killed, a guy and a young lady.
But
and only
SWAT
recently,
too, right? They were actually killed by SWAT accidentally, right?
Yeah, well, there's some issue as to whether or not. I think from what I'm aware of, the guy was actually shot by this terrorist, and the young lady, unfortunately, was, I think, caught in the crossfire with the Australian armed forces and that sort of thing. Yeah, it was horrendous. It was absolutely horrendous. But it happened at lunchtime during the day I was at work, and as I said, I was like 100 metres just down the road. It was fascinating.
Hey, speaking of, do you remember, were you in Sydney that time that the power went out in the entire city? Were you in the city at that time?
No, when was that? What year?
It was, I don't remember. I want to say 2008, but I know it's not. I know it's not. But there was a time where like it was like a Friday afternoon, and the whole city lost power.
I don't remember it, mate. I don't, because if it was 2008, I was here, because I've been here since, God, 97, actually. But I don't remember that.
Well,
I know
blackout,
there was occasion where there had been a gas leak in the CBD area where I was working. And they had to shut down all the buildings and that sort of thing. Oh, brilliant, I can go home.
Yes. I tell you, though, it's weird how famous Sydney is through things like that and cranes falling down and shit like that.
Oh,
again, no, if you actually look into it, the city is like really got a lot of videos and a lot of popularity for shit going wrong.
It's interesting because I don't know, say, how Australia and Sydney particularly is viewed by you guys in the States. I don't know what perceptions you have of Australia. I know more of what the guys in the UK and Europe think of Australia. But what Australia is thought of, or in the United States, I actually don't know.
Well, I mean, from my perspective, I can only speak for mine, is that they don't know too much about it. And, okay, look, I'm going to be honest. As a joke, a friend of mine has been tagging me into Flat Earth comments onto Facebook.
Yeah.
As a little joke, but I'll be honest, lately, the comments about Australia being not real.
I've read those.
I tell you,
and they're actors, right? The people who come across from Australia, they're all actors. They don't believe that Australia exists.
Actors, they're paid off. That they're right. Idiots who were like changed at birth or something like that. So it's like, oh man, I just they're obviously not smoking enough. Yes,
they had a few more bongs. I think they'd realise that they're actually idiots.
Yes, but I mean, I don't think that they know much or they care as well. I mean, it's kind of one of those things here, but I mean, I don't really get asked a lot of questions. I mean, do you get asked?
They know where Australia is, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean,
do they know where New Zealand is, though?
See, New Zealand, everybody brings up, like, New Zealand is like a secondary thing. Oh, yes, you've been to New Zealand? And it's like, yeah, it was cool. Okay, cool. And then, what was that like? Exactly as gorgeous as what Lord of the Rings makes it out to be. That's good to know. And you're like, have you ever left Colorado? No. You're like, come on, man. Like, no, I'm kidding. No, that wasn't.
But is it true? And I could be wrong. But is it true that obviously in this part of the world we travel a lot? But I did hear or read some stats about that with US citizens, they have the least amount of citizens who have a passport because they just actually don't travel.
That is true. That is, I mean, I encounter. Well, you know what? I'll be honest. Working in the business I've worked in, you know, I have seen a lot of passports. I don't know. I think a lot of people, well, because also the DMV just really sucks. Like American DMV is probably the most, especially
DMV Department
of Motor Vehicles.
Oh, right, okay, yeah.
Not the RTD. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, it makes me think, though. I mean, although they're a lot harsher on drinking laws and things like that, like they're way more harsher. The laws are a lot harsher. It's strange.
Oh yeah. Look, I still don't drive. Never have. Never will.
Oh my God, that's right. I remember. That's right. I remember that conversation coming up years ago. Oh my God, that's right.
Yeah, because I get my partner Kieran, he drives, and I'm the comic light relief to make him away.
Well,
I still don't drive after.
Wait, let's go back. How do you view Sydney?
How do I what?
Perspective, how do you view Sydney as
how
a
do
city?
I view Sydney?
Yeah.
Sydney is a great town. It's a great city. It's a truly international city. You know, the things that are happening here at the moment, like the New South Wales state government, they're spending billions of dollars on infrastructure. They needed to. The population is growing so quickly.
Wait. Are they going to fix Parramatta Road? Or
Parramatta?
What?
Parramatta Road?
Yeah. Are they going to actually fix that, or is
yes,
that
actually? Because where I live in Leichhardt, I'm not far from Parramatta Road. And
oh my God,
it's one of the worst roads in Sydney and has been for years and years and years. But as far as I'm aware, what they're doing, they're putting a tunnel from, I think, the central train station and the CBD through to Parramatta. So they're going to take a lot of the traffic off Parramatta Road. It's part of the, $11 billion infrastructure spend that they have to do here. And it's long overdue.
They're going to put, they're going to put an underground railroad from Central to Para.
I could be wrong, but I know they're putting something. It's either it's a train station or it's actually going to be a tunnel for traffic. Because they got to get the traffic off Parramatta Road.
Yeah, that road man.
I know.
How do you deal with that every day?
Yeah, it's like a.
No wonder why you don't drive. You
wouldn't want to drive in Sydney. You know, it's. I find it's a trying to get out because we're only 6 k's from the CBD, and trying to get out of where we are to get into the city in the weekends is worse than during the week. It's because the traffic's just so bad.
So back to the question: how do you find Sydney as an overall place? Like its mood, its tone, its how the people are in terms of food, nightlife, etc.
Sydney is a great place. It's a great place to live. It's international. It's dynamic. It's vibrant. If you're looking for good places to go and eat, to go and drink, if you want to go see some good theatre, you have everything that you want and everything that you need here. I love it. I've been in Sydney now for 20 years. I don't see myself sort of moving out of here anytime soon. I don't see myself moving back to New Zealand.
Really?
Yeah, no, actually. Look, New Zealand's a beautiful country. It's always be home, but it's just a little bit quiet as opposed to what Sydney is.
Yeah,
and Sydney, as I said, it's a truly international city. It's up there with New York and London.
Yeah.
Even say Tokyo, I'd have to admit as well.
It's awake all the time too. Like there's always people out. There's always stores open. Yep. It's a very alive place. Yeah.
Absolutely. And so I don't know if when you were living here, if you ever spent any time in Newtown.
Of course. Yes, I knew that school as well.
Newtown's just got better.
Really, we were.
In fact, I was there today. I was there this afternoon.
I was just talking to Mrs. Dahlman the other day about. I wonder what happened to Newtown because. Like, I heard a bunch of corporates came in and were buying up places to do and fixing up bars, but then playing, like, pop music all day. And I was
okay, there was the Newtown Hotel that was bought
the Newtown
up by
Hotel, man.
Yeah. Look, yes, it was bought up by sort of a big sort of franchise chain. It's fine. It's okay. But they haven't... Newtown still has its own unique vibe and style and difference.
Really? Good.
Oh, absolutely. Recently, they changed the law here in, say, Sydney, in that they have lockout laws now up in King's Cross and Oxford Street.
Yeah.
So, and as far as I'm aware, it means if you go out and you're going out late, they means that if you go out of a pub like at 12 o'clock, you can't get back into one. So that's made that area really, 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 really quiet. And I know there was a reason why they did it. But what's happened is that vibrancy has now transformed down in, say, Newtown. So Newtown is still a great, vibrant, active, diverse place to go. You know, I was there. There's a really good sort of a gay bar down in Erskineville, which is right close to Newtown. I was there this afternoon, and it still has all that vibrancy that makes it what it is.
Is that the
Imperial
Excelsior or which?
No. It's the Imperial Hotel.
The Imperial. Oh man, hey man.
Yeah. It's just it closed down. It reopened. It's fun.
I'll let you know. I shot a film there. I shot a film near there. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Were we allowed it? Yeah. Anyway, but yeah, cool. So in terms of, have you been to like Perth and Melbourne and everything and all of that? And you really would pick Sydney as your top choice?
Well, if I didn't live in Sydney, I'd live in Melbourne.
Really?
Melbourne is. I've been down there for a while, but Melbourne is very similar to Wellington in New Zealand, but on a grander scale.
Oh, it's huge. It's massive.
It has its own unique vibe, its own unique style. It's a great place to live. I've been to Perth and WA. In fact, this is where the wine's from WA. And Perth's lovely. Perth is a little bit similar to Auckland. It's I don't think Perth, from my point of view, has that, I don't know, vibrancy and uniqueness that Sydney and particularly Melbourne have. But that's okay. Neither does Brisbane. Brisbane's a nice town. It's good.
Have you
been
to...
I like Sydney.
Alice Springs or anywhere like that?
I have been to Alice Springs years ago when Kieran's family came out from the France, and we travelled up there, and it's a unique Australian town. That's probably all I can say about
what was
and the
your
RSL
experience like? What was the experience like? Yes, the RSL was great. Yeah,
the RSL was great. Well, before your listeners got the RSL Return Servicemen's League, and that's what it's called. It was hot, as you expect what happened in Northern Territory. It was a great place to visit. Really wouldn't want to live there.
Never go back again.
Yeah,
that's crazy. So in terms of speaking of, because you're giving us a lot of good info on how Australia works. If you can explain for those who are listening, how does Australian politics work right now?
Oh man, if you could tell me, then we'd both know.
Well, if you could try to explain it or kind of describe it from what you can kind of understand, or give us a...
Australian politics is feral. I know, for example, one of the New Zealand politicians said a long time ago that he could never be a successful politician in Australia because it's too feral. One of our other politicians in New Zealand said many, many years ago that if you invite an Australian Prime Minister to come across New Zealand, you never know who's going to show up because they change so often. They've just changed the Prime Minister here in Australia, and that's probably, I think, the fifth Prime Minister in 5 years. It's weird and odd, and trying to be a politician over here would be insanely complicated and difficult. It's fascinating to watch, but also it's completely different to the politics that we have back in New Zealand, really, because our political systems are quite different. But they just elected a new Prime Minister here called Scott Morrison, he comes from the Liberal Party, and traditionally, for me, liberal means, well, he's liberal, but liberal in Australia is fucking conservative.
Yeah, I know, right? It's the complete opposite.
How does that work?
It's so weird.
I don't know. And look, it's interesting to watch. It's a little bit of a soap opera, not as bad as what's happening over in the States at the moment, but it's a bit of a soap opera that's happening here in Australia as well. And they've just equated recently with what's been happening with the change of the Prime Minister. It's similar to Italian Prime Ministers and Italian politics. It's bizarre, odd, and as I said, a bit of a soap opera.
Well, who do you think the next Prime Minister is going to be?
Well, they're having the general election next year, and for your American listeners, there's obviously the Conservatives, which is the Liberal and National Coalition, and they have the Labor, which is more left. They're all pretty centrist these days anyway. But I reckon that the Liberals have shot themselves in the foot, and the new Prime Minister will be the Labor leader, Bill Shorten. But we'll find out next year. I could be wrong. Who knows?
Bill Shorten, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, what's the other alternative?
Jesus Christ. Yeah, but have you seen what ours are? I mean, pretty much, there's a lot of talk, pretty much about, Michelle Obama, potentially running next year, Bernie Sanders running, Hillary maybe trying again or something like that. Oh,
surely not. Surely the Democrats can't be as silly to put Hillary up again. So she didn't succeed last time. They need to reinvent themselves. They need to find somebody that's going to have popular support, or they don't have to do anything, and the current United States president will just completely implode.
Yeah, I know.
Which will be fun to watch. He is a joke, mate. He is a joke. Seriously.
Okay, go on then. If you want to go. He is what is the worst? Is it him being racist, or is it him offending people? Is it him being confused? Is it him spreading lies?
All of it. I would say, if you don't mind, he's a fucktard. He's a complete dick. I'm sorry. I even say he's a knob.
Yeah, but were you a Trump supporter or a Trump fan before he was even a presidential candidate.
I wasn't a Trump supporter from the beginning at all. Not that I knew much about him anyway, and even with working on his reality TV shows and his millions and that sort of stuff as well. I just don't understand how the Republicans could choose him to be the leader of their party and become the president.
It seems like they had no choice. They had no choice, and I mean,
really?
don't forget that Paul Ryan leaves it after this year, so everyone's just like, and don't forget is that his administration right now is the worst it's ever been in terms of the people being let go, being fired. There still isn't people in charge of shit, and it's pretty crazy.
Well, it's going to be interesting to see how the investigations deal with what's happening with the Russian involvement in the elections and that sort of thing, and how much he was involved. Because that's something that's it's as I said, it's a soap opera what's happening over there, and it's really interesting to watch. And what his legacy is going to be, that will be interesting to see.
Well, so how do you picture this whole thing? Like, what do you foresee this whole thing kind of going down? Like, how do you think we're going to hit
beloved Trump?
Yes. How do you think the roller coaster is going to be until 2020?
I think he'll be a one-term president. I think that eventually he'll have no credibility whatsoever.
See, I think you're being too optimistic.
All the way through.
I don't think he's got a chance here.
I suppose.
I think he's got a legit chance here. His supporters love him. People love him here, man.
Really?
It feels like the country is split into a 50%, kind of.
It's that divisiveness I was talking about before. I'm looking from a foreign national, looking from across at what's happening in the US politics and that sort of stuff as well. Yeah. I would be amazed, utterly amazed. Surely you guys have more intelligence.
We did it with the
somebody who has some shred of credibility and intelligence. I don't know. It's fascinating to watch.
It's crazy that now that his lawyer is going to jail. Like, his lawyer is actually
his personal lawyer. I just read on the news recently.
Like, it's no longer a joke anymore. This is no longer Saturday Night Live sketch. He really is going to jail. It begins.
What would be fascinating to see is what did he tell the prosecutors that will lead them to then, impeach become president. I don't know.
Impeaching is a long process too. Like, Clinton was a long time. Like, that didn't even go through, but that was a long time.
And don't you guys got your midterm elections coming up? Is that correct?
Midterm, yes, we do. I do believe. Well, I get a bit confused because we do have elections a whole lot coming up. So, sometimes the state will have reps and so forth. And I'll be honest with you. I used to really care. I used to really be into it. I used to be really passionate. I used to look it up. I would read the newsletters. I'd read the articles. But it just seems like there's no hope. So I started to give up on, apart from a little bit of ABC News, a little bit of CNN, a little bit of Sky News, and then I'll just be like, that's enough. I can't do this anymore.
Because you can get data overload. Like, I look at, say, the politics in New Zealand is quite different to what we have over here. And
I was going to say, explain that, please. Explain, because I don't even know.
It's fine. Look, I understand. Look, New Zealand's small. We're in the arse end of the planet. The New Zealand's the size of the United Kingdom, but there's only 4.3 million people that live in the place. We have a current Prime Minister, Jacinda Ardern. So she has been in power since September last year. She had a baby just recently. She's riding high on the polls. Everybody loves her, which is all lovely and nice, and that's sweet. But, it's still the honeymoon period. And you get this, I would assume, as a politician, is that when you get elected, everybody loves you, that's great. Then over a period of time, maybe they're going to get pissed off with you and that sort of thing. And that's what's going to happen at the moment. But Jacinda is very well liked at home and very well liked and respected on the foreign stage. She's a good sort. She's all right.
So is it still like a parliamentary government like Australia? Or?
It is. Our system... It used to be very similar to the Westminster system in the UK. Now it's called MMP, mixed member proportional. So
wait, what?
It means that a mixed member proportional system. So it means that there are now a larger variety of smaller parties in Parliament that all have to get together and form coalitions and get things done. But we seem to be... New Zealand can get, I think, things done easier through our political system than they can try and do here in Australia. Australia is weird. It's a bit odd.
Yeah.
But I'm quite... As a Kiwi, I'm quite happy with how things are going back home. A lot of people will disagree with me. Some will agree. But our system back home, I think, is a lot clearer and more concise and easier than here in Australia, where you have to deal with state governments, then you have a federal government. Say in New Zealand, of course, you only have one. You got your local councils, but you only have one government, that sort of stuff.
Yeah, but
so that's why
America's like state and local and federal and so forth. And oh wait, that kind of defeats the point. Shit, it's over-governed.
No, it's because many years ago, New Zealand had the ability to become part of Australia back in
no shit, yeah,
the early 20th century. So we could have become a state of Australia, and quite rightly, thank God, we said no, that's fine. We want to chart our own course.
Like, why not?
And
why not become a state? Like what's the worst that could happen?
Oh, then I'd have to be an Australian.
But
I'm Australian anyway.
Yeah. I was going to say, isn't that what like? Yeah, but I've become an Australian by choice as opposed to having imposed upon me. And I can tell you now, all New Zealanders would not want to be part of Australia. We're a very separate, independent little nation in the bottom of the South Pacific, and we're quite happy about that. That's awesome.
That's true. I can tell you now.
Have you ever been to Tasmania?
Tassie? Yeah.
Tasmania. How'd you find Tassie, out of curiosity?
Tassie's great. The climate down in Tasmania is very similar to, say, back in NZ. They make some really good Pinot Noir, good red wine. Hobart's beautiful.
Hobart's awesome.
It's a small place. It has its own unique identity.
Yeah, it's super. And then it rains, and then all of a sudden it's done. Then it rains again. Then it's done. Then it rains again. Then it's light out. Then it's rains again. And then
it's just like Wellington in New Zealand, actually. Because although Wellington's it's the capital of New Zealand. It's a great small town. There's only about 300,000 people that live there, and the weather is shit. It's either windy or it rains all the time. But you can't beat Wellington on a good day. They don't happen very often, but when they do, it's great.
Do you feel that maybe because isn't there like a really big earthquake, isn't the zone at the top of the country? Aren't you guys concerned about that? I mean, it sounds absolutely terrifying. I mean, like one day it's just gonna fall off into the abyss.
Yeah, and look, it's something that New Zealand's lived with, and has always lived with. For example, the fault line, I think, that runs through California runs all the way down through the Pacific Plate through to, say, Wellington itself. And in Wellington, there is they call it the Beehive, which is part of New Zealand Parliament, and there's a street up there, and the fault line runs right up the middle of Wellington. Yes, Wellington gets earthquakes all the time. About in 2011, there's a city in the South Island called Christchurch, and they had a major earthquake there, and about 180 people were killed. But earthquakes are nothing new in New Zealand. They happen continuously. Even in Auckland, where I'm from, although we don't get many earthquakes up there at all, really. There's a volcano in the harbour called Rangitoto. There's lots of volcanic cones that are dotted all around Auckland because it's a seismic volcanic country. But you learn to live with it. And you learn to live with the possibility and the fear.
I did not know it fell on the same fault line as Cali. That's crazy.
Because it's the San Andreas Fault, I think it runs all the way down to the Pacific Plate. And because the Pacific Rim of Fire that also goes the way up to, I think, to Japan and something like that as well.
So if Cali ever goes, the big one goes down, it could actually fuck up New Zealand and Japan too.
Absolutely. And as I said, even when I was living in Wellington, there were 2 or 3 substantial earthquakes that happened when I was living there. But it's something that you deal with, you learn, and you just have to cope with.
Well, tell us about your experience with those earthquakes. Were they small, or were they like the big ones where you're like, oh my god?
Well, they were big enough that, one, you could hear them coming, because you hear the rumble.
You can?
You hear a big rumble. and then it's wherever you are, then the building starts to sway.
That rumble sounds scary.
Oh, it is. And like I was living in a place called Roseneath in Wellington many years ago, and it was on a hill. And again, they had an earthquake where you could hear it coming.
What the fuck?
And then it wasn't like a particular shaking of the building, it was more of a rolling motion.
Oh my
God. Anyway, bizarrely enough, I'm going to segue again. The first earthquake I ever felt, I was actually in Disneyland.
Really?
In LA.
In LA and Cali, no shit.
1989.
Go on,
it was odd. But that was the first quake I ever felt in California, and then I've experienced a number back in New Zealand, of course. So.
Jesus. Have you ever seen a tornado or anything like that? I mean,
no.
I just thought I would ask, seeing as you're already stacking out these earthquakes here.
No.
Jesus.
Luckily, they just had one recently, I think, back in NZ. I was just reading in the local news. They don't happen very often, but it's the seismic activity back home that, firstly, it's cool. The seismic activity that had developed the Southern Alps and the South Island. And there's a place, I don't know if you've been in New Zealand, called Rotorua.
Yeah.
In the centre of North Island, there's lots of geysers, mud pools, and that sort of thing. It has that particular city, and there's a place called Whakaweta that has a lot of significance to the indigenous Maori. But a lot of that's caused by the seismic influence in New Zealand as well. It's just something that you learn to live with and you plan for in case the big one happens.
It's crazy. Like, I don't know. Oh, I don't know. I mean, just to think a big one is coming and it's going to influence us. Terrifying. Like, that's the one thing about Sydney is that, like, if there was a tsunami with all of the underground tunnels and all of that shit that they haven't fixed up, I worry about that. But then again, it's a harbor, so it would break away. But, I don't know. It just always kind of makes me kind of, what if,
Yeah. But do you miss it? Do you miss Australia?
Oh, dude, I'll be honest with you. Yes, every damn day. I really do. More and more every day.
Anyway,
well, Shaun, thank you so much for your time. It's good to see you. It's a pleasure to see you. Thank you again. And thank you for being on the podcast. And
no, more than welcome, mate. It's good to see you. Good to chat.
Done. And I'll let you go, sir.